A week or two back, there was a big national conservatism conference in Brussels, and one speech in particular tickled my fancy.
In that speech, I spoke openly about God, stating that our God-given rights, like bodily integrity, were heavily being violated by the vaccine mandates. After the conference later that day, we, Joram and I, had a discussion with some of our Swedish conservative friends, and they told me that talking about God in Sweden or in any other Northwestern European country would make you lose about 90% of your audience and should be avoided at all costs.
That was Dutch lawyer Eva Vlaardingerbroek, and we're now going to test that Swedish alleged conservative nostrum and kiss off 90% of the audience by talking about God in the rubble of what we used to call Christendom. Great to see you, Eva. Just let me know how, first of all, how did that speech go down in Brussels?
Hi, Mark. Good to see you. Well, actually, surprisingly well. I didn't lose 90% of my audience there. So I think we proved it right then and there that it was a false statement. But let's see how it goes with your ratings right now.
Well, you made the point because you basically posited it as God versus globalism, and you see globalism as a kind of religion for so-called progressives, because the transcendent meaning of life used to be God and heaven, and now for these guys it's that you're saving the planet because of climate change, so the Maldives won't be over flooded with water in the next century or whatever. In other words, globalist policies give meaning to lives on the left.
Right, exactly. They give meaning to life on the left, and not just do they give meaning, and so do they sort of do they form like basically a sort of a way of going around the fact that we don't live in a world anymore where morality, where Christianity rules, or where it's clear for people what is right and what's wrong. Actually, the left has completely destroyed that with all of these moral vagueness, all this idea that everything is subjective. You know, the left has said global ideas say everything in life is a social construct. Gender is a social construct, for example, right? But what I said in that speech is that now, not only do they say, oh, life or gender, things in life that we find normal are only social constructs and can be changed to our will. No, life itself is also a social construct. And that's what I see as one of the largest dangers now of the globalist agenda, and that is, in the end, is transhumanism.
Yeah, that's well, we're already seeing there the suggestion that they can put a chip in you that enables you to buy a coffee at Starbucks or whatever. It seems like an odd road to be going down. It seems like the first step to transhumanism in a way. But what I think is true is that on the right there is also a hostility to God, because conservatives of one kind or another think that ship has sailed, God is over, and we can't do anything by fighting on that turf. But you actually, I thought, made a very sharp point against that.
Right. No, they say, like my Swedish conservative friends, for example, who say, especially when it comes to the youth, we can't speak about Christianity, you know, that will scare them off. They'll say that's scary, that's a fairy tale book, something that we can't believe in. But I think that it's the opposite. So what they do, what the conservatives have a tendency to do, is focus on national policy. But focusing on national policy, for example, when it comes to, well, the COVID mandates, you know, chips in your hands, all these things, they're all pretty convenient, right? You could argue on national level that that's good for citizens. But what you have to do is take it to a way higher level and say, no, actually, we don't need something that's smaller than globalism. We need something that is greater. We need something that presents us with a clear message of the truth, of good moral values, that I think is something that young people who nowadays don't really have any idea what, you know, Christianity is about, what God is about, what the church is about, they're more of a blank slate to that, so to say, than, for example, the generation of my parents who rebelled against their parents and who rebelled against, well, who are all in this sort of spirit of the soixante-dix, you know? So I think that young people are way more open to the idea of Christianity, actually, than we might think.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because as you say, your parents' generation, they knew what they were rebelling against, whereas younger people throughout the West, there's a kind of blank. There's just a big blank slate, a hole where that should be. You used a phrase, they want to turn us into docile consumers. And I think you were talking about these globalist types. That's all they see us as. But are you worried that the right accepts that framing of the issue, so that, for example, the right just wants to find a different kind of docile consumerism for people to partake?
Oh, absolutely. No, there's this very dangerous sort of monstrous alliance, you could say, between the economic right, so the neoliberal right, and the left, where they both in some way have embraced this idea of globalism from different standpoints. So let's say the left wants a globalized world where there's one people, you know, there are no borders, everyone's equal, it's amazing with fairy tales and rainbows everywhere, and we all hold hands, right? I'm exaggerating, but that is basically what the left says that they stand for. All right. Well, then you have the economic right wing, the people who rule my country, for example, Mark Rutte. They say that they're a right wing, even liberal conservative party. Well, the only thing these people seem to be thinking about is free market, and free market, which actually only benefits the big capital, the same big capital that adopts the woke agenda that you see, you know, for that is so prevalent with all of these companies that are going. That are now holding up, of course, the Ukrainian flag, but before that it was maybe the LGBT flag, and before that it was something else. It's always the next best thing.
Yep. No, that's true. The number of people who just get out the Ukrainian flag avatar for their Twitter feeds. You used a marvelous phrase right at the beginning of your speech. You said the good, the true, and the beautiful. And I listen to people from all over the world telling us what we need, but I think that is actually a great platform for the way forward. The good, the true, and the beautiful, because that's the side most of us should want to be on.
Absolutely, yes. And those things, what I said in the speech as well, is what sets us apart, I think, as conservatives, apart from our national differences, our national interests, is that those are maybe the three exactly, again, transcendentals that we should aim for, because those things aren't subjective. Those are objective. There is a truth. Something has a truth. There is beauty. There is good. So those, I think, are the things that we should tell young people, that not everything is vague, not everything is subjective, not everything is a social construct. No, there are truths in this world that you can live by and that can make your life and the lives of many other people much better. And I think it's actually the only way that we have to fight and to really be able to fight the great evils that we're fighting today, the great evils of globalism.